Hi, everybody. Welcome to First Church. Everybody who's going to be watching this after the after broadcast on Facebook and YouTube, I'm glad you have found your way here, and I invite you all to send a message to the center so you can get an invitation to participate in our weekly Zoom calls. The Zoom calls are very special to us because we have a chance to interact with everybody personally. And we have people who are starting to show up in person now too, which is really great. So we'll have more and more of that. So let's get into the lesson. All of our Louise Hay self-healing classes have a time for sharing afterwards. And I want to say up front that you don't have to feel like you're obligated to share. You might be at work, you could be in your car. We go around and we call your names, and we might do that once or twice. You don't have to drop off the call. Just we'll pass on, so please don't feel obligated. It's our desire to include you, and we want to hear what you have to say if you want to say something. So let's move forward with going for great. This class, like every class in the Louise Hay series, is about self-healing, and I was going to show a copy of the book if it's here, in case you're very new. This is what the book looks like. Louise Hay was a student here at First Church years ago, and she's probably our most famous student because her fame became bigger than the whole movement itself. She passed away a few years ago, and people are still studying her material, listening to her audios. So from her book, You Can Heal Your Life, and also borrowing heavily from Ernest Holmes, The Science of Mind, we start out by saying we all choose our thoughts. We choose what we think, and we choose what we think about. And one of the things that we learn to do in religious science is we attempt to learn how to harness the inner dialogue. And I remember teaching this to children at one point in my career. They teach them the science of mind with the stagecoach. You've heard me say that before. And the stagecoach represents your consciousness. And your consciousness is all your thoughts and your thinking. It just like takes you everywhere. But it does so unconsciously. It's like, so the invitation for kids when you're teaching this teaching to children is to get out of your comfort zone of the stagecoach and then go up front and step up on the platform and sit on the seat and take the reins. And that's where you begin to use your executive power. So that's how I would tell you, how to approach the teaching. Your thoughts are things, and all the thoughts that are in your subjective mind, plus your conscious thoughts. The totality of all that gets mirrored in your life. So the invitation to the children, and I'm saying this in case somebody's very new, is to realize that thought's creative, and you can step out of everything you've ever known before and step up and get on that platform and take the reins and begin to use the power that you have, right? Because life is responding to you either way, either constructively or sometimes destructively, depending upon the body of thoughts that you have, within. So that's my little lesson before the lesson. So we choose what we think about, and those thoughts become beliefs. We don't even know where they all started because you came into the planet without, like you're a blank slate, a little being, a baby of light and wonder. And as we get older, we want to figure out how to harness this dialogue that we have. And we don't even really know where it came from anymore at a certain point. I want you to realize tonight that you have what's called a stream of consciousness. We're here to learn how to improve that stream of consciousness. We're here to learn how to heal or improve that flow of our ideas, our thoughts, because they're always flowing. It's very difficult for you to silence the mind. I don't know if it's possible. It's always flowing. And the very, very process of that is exciting. It's creative. It's just you look at your life and you think, oh my God, I don't like what I see in my own life. And okay, when you come into a teaching like this, we're going to say, okay, well, there's something you can do about it. You know, you're not a finished product, no matter if you're 20 or you're 80 or anywhere in between. Life responds to you. So this flow of ideas has also been described by some as a train of causation. Now, that won't mean a lot to you if you're new to the teaching, but we talk a lot in the teaching about cause and effect. So if my train of causation tends to be pretty negative, if my consciousness is somewhat, ain't it awful, and if the train of my causation tends to be on the negative side of life, then you would know that I'm going to create a life that will be working against my own good. And in the opposite way is if I've worked with my consciousness some and I've elevated my thoughts and I'm really involved in the teaching, then that train of causation is going to, just because I've been working at it, it's going to lift me up. And the more I lift myself up, it's the Emerson idea, hitch your wagon to the stars. To the extent you do that and you're consistent and persistent, your life will shift and it will happen sooner than later. So, back to Louise. Louise would say, it's only a thought you're having, and a thought can be changed. I know we have stories within us, and that we're writing new ones all the time. And we have the ability to write a good story, if you really want to, right? One of my teachers used to say always, you are the author of your own experience. If you pay attention to your thinking, you're going to realize that you have the ability to write a great story. And from another person I'm fond of, it's not too late for any of us, whether you're 8 or 80. There was an attorney friend of mine from Florida who used to say all the time, the final chapter has not yet been written. So that could speak, for some of people my age and older, the final chapter has not been written. So if you find yourself in your 60s or my age group, or if you're in your 20s or 30s, you can begin to write a good or great story. You can go for great. The thing I'd like to say tonight is, why would you stop? I mean, why wait? Why would you wait when you know you have all this power at your disposal? Somehow or another this afternoon came to mind a little black book that was in 12-step programs 30, 40 years ago. And I don't think it ever had a name. It was like a daily prayer book or something, affirmations. In the front of it was what was called the Sanskrit proverb, and now I think it's named something else. And it goes this way: look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. Today, right? In its brief course lies all, the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. Yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today well lived makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. So this is what we teach here. We're trying to get people to be in new moments and realize, my God, I'm creating my whole life right now, and to stop the train of causation that would be the negative story, right? If you happen to be a little bit older, I'll say my age group, and you know that the final chapter has not been written, then let's wake up and start right now and get excited and know that, beginning today, I can do anything I want to do once I realize I have this power backing me up. And if you're younger, oh my goodness, So you begin wherever you are, right? We can rewrite the old stories. We can rewrite and we can cancel the old tapes that would suggest there's something wrong with us, or that there's something missing, or that there's, in some way, we're deficient. Maybe we bought into that stuff through our interactions with our relationships with our growing up, or through our loves, our loved ones, our sisters, brothers, cousins. We had ex-husbands or wives or whatever. we might have bought into other people's assessment of ourselves. You know, you're no good, you're not this, you're not that. And it's kind of too bad if it happened, but it does happen. And somehow I was listening to Taylor Swift recently, and she used the song was Shake It Off. So wherever you find yourself hanging on to this stuff, you know, the suggestion is release it, shake it off, because those old tapes, if they keep circulating around and round and round, it's just they keep on causing you to have the same types of lessons come in and they come in again and again, until finally you learn them so well that you just, but you know, I don't want to make the same mistake again and again and again, and I'm sure most of you don't either. They used to talk about relationships. You'll meet the same person over and over again. They'll have a different face, but it'll be some version of the same story. When you really learn what you need to learn from any relationship, it's a step up for you. If you don't learn anything from it, then it's just going to repeat itself in some other way. So we have our old stories, and maybe they protected us when we were kids, you know, be scared of strangers and, you know, stay away from strangers, don't talk to, you know. Some of those things might have been helpful when you were a child, but they're not necessarily helping you now. We want to look at the opinions we hold of ourselves in life. So tonight the invitation is to write a different kind of story. Be creative, right? And be imaginative. Let yourself to dream. Get excited about you and get passionate about it. As we create a picture that's different, and a more expansive idea of ourselves, we will literally be hitching ourselves to the wagon that Emerson was talking about years ago. So imagine and dream and visualize the things that you would like to be in your life, the way you'd like to show up, the things you'd like to do. Now, they may not manifest exactly as you're visualizing or dreaming, but it's that creative visualization, that imagination, and that the sense that I can do this that's going to really put things in gear for you. What the mind can see and believe, it will achieve. You'll lift yourself right up to places you can't even imagine that you can go. So you have this power at your disposal. And that was Ernest Holmes speaking when he said, there's power for good in the universe. And he said, and you can use it. And he broke that down a little bit more, but that's good enough for tonight. There's power for good in the universe, and you can use it. So think about that train of causation. If you're a negative thinker and you're on a negative train, you know what you're going to cause yourself to experience will be a lot of difficulties. And that doesn't have to happen that way. Ernest Holmes also said, suffering is not God ordained. That's a brilliant statement. Bill Wilson, 12-step founder, said misery is optional. So we're caught up into a lot of places in our life where we don't want to think it has anything to do with us either, right? That's the thing that's, I won't say funny, but we think our problem is about other people usually. That's the way most people approach life. Most people are reacting to life. They're reacting to what's on news. They're reacting to what people have done to them. So it's the way most people operate. That's not the way of a metaphysician. That's not the way of a truth student. A truth student will have another idea. A truth student will understand, in truth, there is nothing outside of me. A truth student will understand, I am cause to my own experience. And that doesn't mean or suggest that anybody's to blame for anything. This ties in directly to what Louise would have said when she said, everyone is doing the best that they can with the information, the understanding, and the awareness they have. So forget the notion of blame, because no blame to this. It's just where you are in consciousness is being reflected in your life. It's as simple as that. And it's no one's fault. It's just where you are. It's the culmination of what you've learned and what you've experienced. The thing that's really beautiful is you're not stuck. So you will be stuck if you don't challenge your thoughts, though. You know, if you don't get out of that stagecoach and get up onto the platform and use your, what Holmes called your executive power. You know, there's power for good and you can use it. So as we move forward, Ernest Holmes and Louise Hay would say, you have all this power at your disposal. He spoke of it, Louise Hay spoke of it. When I was a teenager, I knew I had that kind of sense, but I didn't know how to use it. I knew I could demonstrate things, but I didn't really know what we're teaching here is we're giving you a lot of very valuable tools. I understood what the mind could see and believe it would have a tendency to show, it would show up. I didn't really understand the magnitude of that idea or that I could be cause to my own experience. And certainly I didn't know that I could heal my life. That came probably a decade later for me when I first got a copy of You Can Heal Your Life. And with that, everything started changing. So you can also learn from our teaching how to improve and heal conditions. In other words, the stuff that's in your life that seems broken or that seems like it doesn't work, places within you that seem broken. I mean, for you, you might think, well, this is it, doctor said, and then you believe the doctor, or Quest Diagnostics said something, and you think, okay, so we have a tendency to make people who are technicians or people who are there to support us and help us, we tend to make them the definitive authority in our life. And that's really too bad, because the person who has the authority in your own life really is yourself. If I give my power away to the doctor, if I give my power away to the husband or the girlfriend or whatever, then I'm deferring to them. And so I just want you to, we work with doctors here. We're not like, some of the early people in New Thought would like abandon medicine and abandon all kinds of things. And we don't do that. We understand that God is in medicine and everything else. But we really want you to understand that you have power at your disposal that you can use. You can make changes. You can heal, many aspects of your life. You can make healings in all areas. Sometimes it's difficult to believe that anything like that is possible. I've had students for years who'll say things like, you don't understand, Greg, or Dr. Greg, you don't understand the pain I've been through. And they'll get into their stories, right? The situations in their family and their marriages, and they'll say, I don't understand, and they'll talk about their health and their loss and what's broken and busted. And all of that, I've listened to it just the way Louise Hay listened to it. Louise Hay concluded after she listened to it, she said, I've been listening to people for years. And she'll say, the bottom line underneath all those problems is some version of I'm not good enough. There's some place where they're feeling that they're not adequate. And so that's why her message hit a chord in America, and it sold 66 million copies. She tapped into something that's we all share in. There's a sense that we're not enough. Louise worked as a practitioner right here at First Church in New York, and so it's kind of like a thrill for me to be here. Never planned it, never knew it would work out that way, but it did. So she did her research for the book right from our place. She would see people like some of you on the call, see some of you up your faces, and she would, do prayer work for you. And she would say, if she's facing somebody like Jimmy and he's got an issue of some kind, she'd say, well, there's a probable cause. And that would be her individual feeling. And then she'd write out a treatment. And so her little collection of treatments and probable causes and affirmations are part of that book. I'm going to give you the layman's version of this because if you went through this more in depth, if you have within you some condition where you think that I'm broken or there's something wrong with me in a relationship, in your relationship, and there's pain and there's worry, you have the ability to neutralize and work with any of these ideas because they're all in your mind. You might not think you have the power to do that, but you do. And you might think it's too much. I have people calling me and saying, Greg, I can't do this. It's too much I'm dealing with. And they tell me the things. Because this is what their belief is. But you do have the power. Louise Hay would say, you begin wherever you are with whatever you're thinking, and you begin to neutralize that thought. You begin to cancel it. You begin to tell yourself, in most cases, the opposite of what you've been believing most of your life. Most of us have learned the value of taking the high road, right? It's, you could keep on being in a conversation what people have done to you and how awful life is, but we confront that directly in this teaching. We're not in reaction. Most of us have learned the value of being a lifter. I recall I've done a version of this talk before, and I was kind of like, I was really happy to read a comment that Michelle Obama made years ago when she said, "When they go low, we go high," because I thought it was brilliant. And in the idea of healing with Louise Hay, when people are going low, we go high. So this is a new thought concept. It's a practice. And it's not just when people go low, we go high. It's also that when we find ourselves in a tough spot, and we're going low, and we're doing some version of stinking thinking. In those moments where we're really low, we have a great opportunity in those new moments to do something really radical and something different. When we learn to catch ourselves going, when we're on a downward spiral, we can turn it all around. Again, the point of power is always right here with you. That was also the gift of Ram Dass, who wrote the book Be Here Now. Because in any moment, you have a great and glorious opportunity to turn it all around. Where you can drop the story, you can drop all the thinking and the thoughts, you can drop the ideas of being a victim, you can drop any type of thought, and you can drop the thinking of who's done this to me and who's done that to me. And you have the ability to, in those moments, create a whole new reality. You have the opportunity to seize that day. And so that's where the power is always in the new moment. That was a message from both Ernest Holmes and Louise Hay. When people are going low, or when you go low with your own thinking, you have the ability, because you exist as an individualization of this creative intelligence, you have the ability to turn it all around. This precious thing called life, I want to say first and foremost, you're one with it. You may not know that you're one with it, but everything that Creator has, you have. Everything that it has in terms of power and ability to create, you are an individualization of that. So if you're really down on yourself and you're keeping this conversation, down and all that, it's just going to show up in your life as negativity. So I want to challenge all of you, as I challenge myself daily, is when I find myself doing this, then I'm the one who's being cut off from. Think of yourself as a prodigal child. You're one with it, and it will respond to you. And it's there to sustain you, inspire you, and bring you forward. But if you separate yourself from it in consciousness and tune it out, you can get to feel very disconnected, and it happens, but it doesn't have to happen. There's an adage from Louise Hay's book, Remembering and Forgetting. She said, it's a game that we play. When we remember who we are, and we plug into who we are, with just that remembrance, you're restored to it's like being restored to sane and, wonderful living. But when we're in reaction and we're in the weeds and we're just telling ourselves stories or entertaining stories, then you're going to have a disconnect. And it will be in your mind only, because you're still connected with the universe from the New Testament and from the prodigal child. When you turn to it, it's there restoring you as you turn to it. So we always want to maintain that connection, invite Spirit into our awareness. It's very human to find ourselves in a place of where we think we're disconnected. But the thing about Spirit is always attempting to get your attention. And it does so through your conscience. It does through your dreams. It's what I call divine discontent. There's always something there to bring you back. This teaching is such a tremendous gift, because as soon as you find yourself in that place, where you're lost, then you can say to yourself, there you go again, and then, just gently pull yourself back. Never criticize yourself, just gently pull yourself back. When you're down on yourself, or you're down on life, and you find yourself doing that, You have amazing tools to turn it around again. And if you have to start your day over several times a day, if that's what it takes, then do it. Another old expression, it's never too late to start your day over. And I learned that one 40 years ago, and I still have to sometimes practice it. You might have given your power away during the morning or afternoon. Then if that's the case, acknowledge it and give yourself a pause and center yourself and say, I'm starting over right now. What we're involved here in this teaching is a practice. I've been a practitioner for I don't know how many years now. And so a lot of us here on the call have been, doing this for a long time, but we're far from perfect. I mean, we're good people, but we're far from perfect in the sense that we're all here learning. We make mistakes, and we're all, every one of us, evolving or evoluting along, learning as we go. We do have something that's a great gift, though, and we have a practice, and so we keep practicing. And then before you know it, and it really doesn't take that long, maybe a few weeks, a few months of this kind of practice, practicing these principles, the world starts to change for you. Because if you're committed to seeing the good in the God and what we say, in everything and all the time, and you know that every encounter is a holy encounter, if you're coming from that place of connection with yourself, because it really has nothing to do with anyone else, if you're coming from that place of connection with yourself, then you're elevated to a higher realm altogether. You'll start to realize, oh my goodness, my relationships are starting to improve. Oh my goodness, doors are opening for me. Oh my goodness, my boss isn't such a jerk. Oh my goodness, I'm living in a world that's working for me all of a sudden. And your life begins. And it's a beginning, not because of good luck, it's a beginning because of you. And it's the beginning because of your better use of your consciousness. Whenever I go low or they go low, people are taking shots at you and or you're doing it to yourself. And it's really unfortunate, but it's what happens. You want to try to interrupt these types of inner conversations and dialogues that exist within your own mind and rise up and out of it as soon as you can, as soon as you're aware that you're doing it. Hitch your wagon to the stars of the bigger ideas, the better ideas, the smarter ideas. Give your brother, sister a break, for God's sake, because they're doing the best they can with what they got. That's being a religious scientist. That's a person who has a supporting consciousness. You're extending love and forgiveness to other people because they're doing the best they can. Nobody intentionally tries to hurt themselves. It's just, what you have here is you have people evolving, and you're evolving. I'm evolving. So we're developing an elevated consciousness, and it's a supporting consciousness. And if we quiet ourselves down, you get in touch with a voice or spirit within that speaks in different ways for different people, dreams and aha moments. It's always there. You can't stop it. So we let ourselves expand and we trust, and all of a sudden we're creating more peace in our life and faith. I know most of you have this spirit in you that is restless and wants you to express life in a bigger way and in a way where you be more happy and more expansive. So pay attention, slow down long enough to listen, meditate, commune. Ernest Holmes says we live the affirmative life, so we're here to see the God, the good, Ernest Holmes also said in his last speech, find me one person who's so redeemed from the bondage of self, and I will find a person that I want to commune with and be with. And, and what he's talking about there is the bondage of self is we're all caught up in all this mess in terms of ideas and judgments and all of that stuff. He wanted to hang out with somebody who was redeemed from all that nonsense, where, the person is just really knowing that they live and move in love and creative energy. And so the work we always do is with ourselves. Whenever and however we find ourselves in negative states of consciousness, and it happens all the time, and we realize we're spinning round and round in a story about life or someone, or life is hard, or someone's bad, or someone's right or wrong, there's something you can definitely do about all that. And I've already told you, we can raise our thoughts to a higher place. We can lift ourselves right out of all that muck and say, I release this, I release the need for this, and you can say that about almost anything. You know, wherever you're in a place of disturbance, worry, or fear, doubt, you can say, I release the need for this. Because if you're in those places, there is some need in you to stay in some places where you're unhappy. I don't know what it would be. I have to ask myself that question sometimes. You know, and release the need to go back to that same old story of being a victim or hurt. And as you learn to do this, you know, you'll take yourself to places that are really wonderful. When I find myself in those places, I'll go on to say, I release the need to do this. I release the need to do any of these things or think any of these thoughts. In this teaching, we're learning to be lifters in consciousness. So when this type of thinking comes in, and it will come in, and you find yourself reacting to people, places, and things, the first thing you want to do is forgive yourself for reacting. You know, just forgive yourself. And the other thing from Louise Hay is have the realization that you're doing the best you can, and the other people are too. And we're all interacting with people, and everybody's doing the best they can. Even if people are acting crazy and doing all kinds of things, they are where they are by right of consciousness. Get yourself centered. In this teaching, we suggest you take a moment in meditation or prayer and go into the affirmative prayer in the first step, where we start by saying we recognize that we are one with life. We are center of this divine energy. And this life is inspiring us to step out of all these lesser states of consciousness and to step up into bigger ideas. Whatever any of us can see and deeply believe will somewhat magnetically be drawn to us. So if you can imagine your life being happy, and you can imagine yourself being whole or healthy, and you can feel it and sense it, you'll be starting to draw yourself right to the healing you're looking for. If we stay focused, if we become more centered, it's easy, you know, you're taking yourself out of all the action and reaction. You'll be stepping out of doom and gloom. So it's very easy for us to be reacting to everything. It's easy to complain about things we don't fully understand also, and it's easy to complain about people and where we don't know the whole story, because we never do. It's easy to have rapid and quick opinions about people. Oftentimes the opinions I have, I don't even know where they come from. I was raised in a family that had a lot of opinions, and I'm sure some of you were too. As you get a little bit more mature, I won't use the word older all the time, you know, you've learned lessons, right? And so you realize many of these opinions, where the heck did they come from? They're not based upon anything necessarily I've ever experienced other than things I've learned and all that stuff. As you enter into a teaching like this and you become a truth student, or you, what we say as you enter metaphysical studies, you attempt to live from a deeper and a more connected place. So we all have things to look at. It's easy for us to lead our lives from a place of fear and judgment. That's the way most people do it. It's easy to turn on the news programs, every single one of them, and you'll be reacting to stuff all night long when you turn it on. As I switched the channels recently, I realized, well, none of them are really advertising good news. I mean, and you can go liberal to conservative and everywhere in between. I don't think they put it on there. I haven't seen any of it. So it's easy to buy into all the programming, and it's easy to be a divisive person. It takes a little bit more effort to understand whatever the person is in front of me or I'm listening to, or whoever it is, my husband, my friend, my wife, my sister, my advisor. You don't know what they've lost. You don't know what they've been through. So it's easy to judge. It's a bit harder to say to yourself, they're doing the best they can, I'm sure, with everything they have right now. If you have that gift, you can extend that kind of love when people are reacting all over the place. And that's quite a gift to have. That's a person who's spiritually realized. It's very easy to go low. It's very easy to react. It's very easy to be part of the problem. It's something quite different to be a lifter. The question I want to ask everybody in the class tonight is, what do you want to do? Whether you're You 22 or 82? Do you want to live your life from an empowered place? What have you come here to do in this life? Are you here to complain? Are you here to celebrate life, right? You can enter into a state of life where you're increasingly more experiencing joy like a child. You can live a life where there's more happiness and more wonder. You can live with positive expectancy at any age. And I want you to know from Louise, hey, it's available to you. When you remember to center yourselves and know I am a center of God activity, I am an inlet and outlet of God activity, and I have the willingness to drop grievances. I have the willingness to release blame. I have the willingness to stop criticizing myself and others. There was another book from the Course in Miracles that had a famous phrase, which was, love holds no grievances. So wherever there is a spot in us where we're holding a judgment, and I know we all do it, let's tonight, in our own ways, say to ourselves, because you know what it is, you'll think of a few things. Say to yourself, I release the need to hold this. I release the need to hold it. And understand, I am and whoever else is, they're doing the best they can with the information and consciousness they have. And then, when I think of the other person, and there's usually someone on your mind, whoever they are, it could be even a family or group of people. Again, you say to yourself, I know they're doing the best they can with the information, understanding that they have. If we begin to do this more and more, we're going to have greater degrees of peace and happiness. I release the need to be right. That used to be a big one when I was younger. I was very good at seeing what was wrong. We can learn to see the good in others, and we can definitely learn to see the good in ourselves. Louise, I always had an affirmation. Louise always had this affirmation. I love and accept and approve of myself exactly as I am. So she invites you always to begin the process of giving yourself a completely different kind of message than you've been giving yourself recently. And this could be a word for people, because I know some of us, really do a negative number on ourselves. We use the word should all over the place. And from her book, that was her least favorite word. She says that when you're really that dictatorial, you're telling everybody what they should do. She said it indicates patterns of rigidity, and you're making people wrong, and you make yourself wrong. And so let's stop that, should and its synonyms, and let's start connecting and loving ourselves more, and realizing the other people, wherever they are, they're evolving, same as we all are. Some of us are very gifted with analytical powers, and we're good at seeing what's wrong and what's missing, and that isn't really going to be helping you in metaphysical studies. We've heard the expression before, analysis paralysis. So if you're all caught up with that type of analysis and seeing where the flaw is, or where the speck in the other person's eye is, then you're definitely going low, and you're not going to make yourself feel better. What we're going to do with this teaching is keep on focusing on, the good, so we can be in new moments. We're going to drop the critical, all of that stuff. Being so critical and going low is a short-sighted way to live life, she thought. Because behind and back of all these assessments and these critical assessments, we're people ourselves, and we all have our issues, and we're looking at people who are trying in some way to move forward. And underneath all of it, as you think about yourself and you think about everyone else, there is still this magnificent spiritual person in you. And even in the people you're upset with, there still is this magnificent spiritual person in them. So why would I want to be judging any of them? Why would you want to? So we want to lift ourselves up and others. How can we grow if we're tearing ourselves apart? All the people, I think of all the people we've been upset through the years, and you might have had good reasons. Every last one of these people are spiritual beings of light and wonder. And so today we remember something we often forget, that we are spiritual beings, and each one of them are whole and complete as well. So this is something for us to consider, letting go of any and all of that, letting go of any of it that lives within you about yourself, and any grievance you have towards anyone that you know. Each of us can be resolved to go much higher and to be much more connected. We are connected with Source, we are connected with life, and we have tremendous powers to use. We're doing important work individually, the same way the center is doing collectively, and we're not going to go down to that nonsense anymore. So I would say, I release the need to do that. Wherever you find yourself doing it, stop it. Stop that train of causation and go higher, go much higher. And it always begins at home. So she would say, start by forgiving yourself, loving yourself more. You can't carry the burden of everybody. So you're here to lift and encourage. And, to the extent, I'm here to be a lifter. So we say great job and good. We say that to other people. And that's what we're here to do. Lift ourselves up and lift others up as much as we can. And we want to let go of things that hold us back. Grudges and maintaining any type of grievance and any sense of regret. So the question today I asked is, can you see where there's some opinion that you have had about yourself that's holding you back? Some place where you say, I should have done this or I should have done that. Is any of that stuff operating in you? Is there any low opinion you're thinking of how you look or where you're at, spiritually, economically, socially? Are you criticizing yourself, or your health? So you might have a lot of opinions where you think you're too something, too anything. Anything after TOO is suspect, because it's really a statement where you're being critical. You might be critical of how you behaved in relationships, and you might say, I failed in them all, or something like that. Wherever there's any negative opinion, this would be a good place for you to release that. And bring it to your mind and say to yourself, I'm willing to release this pattern right now. And so the first thing is to become aware that you have a pattern. If you find yourself blaming everybody all the time, that's not a good indication, right? Because the whole thing really is, it's all about you. In truth, here's another line that I had to think about for a few years. In truth, there's nothing outside of you. Okay, absorb that one for a while. In truth, there's nothing outside of you. I had a very gifted teacher who used to ask this question for a couple of years. I thought she was like, she did spiritual jujitsu on people, because she would always say, what are you creating this to be? What are you creating this person to be? And in that particular group, people were wanting to talk about people's behavior, and we would always have it wrong, So the question was always, what are you creating this to be? Who are you creating this person to be? So all power is with you. And you're the storyteller, you're Shakespeare. You're writing the script, you're writing the play, and you're assigning the roles to everybody. And in fact, these people, you never have the whole story about them, yet you're deciding everything about them. So we want to become aware of our patterns where we're being critical and judgmental. Because otherwise, these dramas keep playing out, right? And we want to heal our life, so we want to drop the stories. If there's something that comes up and you see that you have an issue, just say, okay, I get it. I see I'm doing this, and I release it. I release this, I release it. And you just keep working with it, and you keep working with it, and then all of a sudden your load is lighter. You become lighter. You start to become a lifter yourself, because you're seeing the good in everybody, and that's what we're here to do. So that's a lot to digest, I'm sure. Then she would say, after all this, it's all very simple. What you give out comes back to you. This teaching is really wonderful because it teaches you that you have power to transcend everything. You have power to heal your life. You have power to heal your circumstances. You have power to heal your body. You have power to heal your relationships. You're not here to act and react with the world. You're here to, I'll say, clean up your own inner dialogue, and then you'll see it reflected everywhere in your world. So I had a great teacher who was a little bit kind of in-your-face kind of guy, Bill Tolliver, but he used to say to us in our classes, don't die dumb. And what he was trying to say is, my God, this thing is all cause and effect, and you have the power. So why would you want to like go out without a clue? You know, you have power to use. You can get up in front of that stage, coach, and you can use that power, and you can direct the power. And Ernest Holmes said the same thing. You know, it's all there for you. So you come into the awareness that this God, this divine intelligence is in us, operating through us. It responds to us. It does the work. So you keep tuning into our classes every Thursday, and if you can on Sundays. And we're going to keep on reminding you that you are an individualization of this divine thing, this divine energy. You have everything you need. It communes with you. It gives you messaging. It's designed for you to evolve and grow and to step out of all these stories and to shine and be brilliant and be the brilliant person you came here to be.